I made my first 20 million when I was 21 years old and went bankrupt right after that, lived in my car for a year. So that progression of making all that money was buying all the stupid crap that you feel like you need, the watches and the cars and going to every party. And I was not a good boy from Centerville. I was the crazy boy from Centerville. So
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stuart Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride. And with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
This episode is brought to you today by PodUp. PodUp.com is the leading all-in-one AI-powered podcasting software. If you've ever considered having a podcast, want to get started, go to podup.com and check it out. I produce my podcast, use a variety of tools and producers that help me get everything done that I'm doing. Podallies.com is the agency I choose. If you're interested in having a podcast, you don't want to do it yourself through podup.com, I highly recommend that you go check out podallies.com and schedule a strategy call with one of their production specialists. They will be able to help you and think through everything you need to before you get started on your journey as a podcaster.
Folks, we are going to have a ton of fun today because we have with us a boy from Star Valley, Wyoming. That has
actually, Centerville, Utah, my friend.
Well, you're in Centerville,
Utah.
But didn't you grow up in Star Valley or something?
I lived in Morgan, Utah. Is that light better, by the way?
Oh, that's way better. But why did I think Star Valley? Maybe you just were on a trip there. You need a post on LinkedIn about Star
Yeah, I
Valley
do. I've been to, we went down to my wife's grandpa's grave and we went up there and hung out for a bit.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's what it is.
That makes sense. Why are we burying people in Star Valley? That would make sense.
So you're out in Utah, grew up in Morgan.
Yep. I grew up in Centerville, Utah, went to Viewmont. And then I moved to Morgan. I was 2006, so 22 years old, I guess.
Okay. What year did you graduate high school?
32 years old. What the heck? I graduated in 1974. I graduated in 1993. So,
okay. Fantastic.
Got to get my years right? I was born in 74, graduated in 93, moved to Morgan in 2006. Been there ever since. Same house. It's a big old 1,755 square foot bad boy sitting right there in town.
That's still where you guys live?
Still where I live. Yep. Everybody shows up to my house like, what the heck? I thought you'd have a big old house. I'm like, I don't. It doesn't make me money. I have big old buildings, but I don't have a big old house.
Oh, good for you, dude. So is that something that your wife and you are both intentional about, like, no, we're staying?
No, we bought 60 acres up the street in Morgan there, and we had an intention to build. And then we're like, we can't even keep this 1,750 square foot house as clean as we'd like. Why are we going to build this night? It was like 9,700 square foot thing. And I'm like, I don't even know if I want to maintain that. I really don't. I'm happy with what it is. I'm comfortable. The kids really want the pool that was designed and all the fun stuff that was designed inside. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's not my thing.
Yeah. Well, I love that about you. That's cool because it means you're not just doing what everyone naturally does, right? There's a natural progression in income, natural progression in homes. Like that tends to follow. And so
I learned that early though. I made my first 20 million when I was 21 years old and went bankrupt right after that, lived in my car for a year. So that progression of making all that money was buying all the stupid crap that you feel like you need, the watches and the cars and going to every party. And I was not a good boy from Centerville. I was the crazy boy from Centerville. So, of course, I had to follow every crazy party from New York to freaking New Orleans to wherever it was with all my friends. And I paid for everything because, of course, they're 21-year-old kids that don't have the kind of money. So I learned the hard way. What does money do? Well, you get a whole bunch of friends when you have it, and it feels good to be able to buy them stuff. But when the party ends or the music stops, which it always does in business, right? No matter what, you're going to have this musical change and you have to be ready to take a seat. If you haven't prepared yourself to take that seat, then you're going to miss the seat. And I was far away from being able to land in a safe space because I didn't know what savings meant. I just knew what making myself look cool meant. And unfortunately, you pay the consequences, and got the opportunity to live in my car for a whole year exactly to the day. And that was the greatest thing that ever happened. The first 6 months were hell. The next 6 months were the best. So, it's odd when you go from being able to buy and wear anything you want and drive whatever you want to not being able to afford lunch and shower at the Flying J gas stations. There's this, you try to, at the time I was 22 years old and trying to wave to girls in homeless clothes. It's not always the easiest. So I'm like, if you only knew me then kind of story. Remember like the old high school football star, like if our coach would have put me in back then. But anyway, I had that opportunity to do that. And so now it's never been anything I strive for. So I drive a pickup and I have a couple collectible cars, but it's not one's in 1934 and one's in 1954. And that's about it. The rest is just normal. And I don't find excitement in the fancy watches, and people say, hey, dress for success and wear the watch because it's signaling. I'm like, no, I think it's dumb. How about let my experience and what I've done in my past be the signal. Like, I don't want to have to tell people what I do. I want people to know from what great companies or products or whatever reputation I've had in the past. And I've had some pretty bad reputation too. And thank goodness for those, right? Because you learned on what you didn't want to be. And so you've had those unique opportunities to make those changes. And it's been really humbling at the time, but now it's a lot more, I find it simpler to be disciplined.
This is a man of wisdom we're listening to, folks, because he has paid attention when things didn't work out and said, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be different because of that. And you just kept, it sounds like in all these struggles that you've been through, you just kept finding a way. And you say you didn't have signals or that you don't worry about signaling. Well, how many people know the Murphy brand now? How many people have been gainfully employed now by Murphy? Think about that. Those are signals, folks. And
right.
Ones that you find real meaning and joy in, right?
It's true. And I think that going back to the car experience, like when I said the first 6 months were hell, it's because you sit there and have to digest all the garbage that you put out, all the people you hurt, all the people. And I don't mean just financially. I mean by putting them into the wrong places and the wrong parties and the wrong experiences and all the things that you go through. So you went through this inventory of all the mistakes, which then puts you into extremely suicidal. At least for me, I attempted suicide twice, and thankfully I didn't go through with it. Right. And it was a great thing to do. Honestly, I know that sounds terrible, but I got stopped by a dude that wasn't necessarily I guess the guy that I'd want to catch me. He's always the guy that teased me, and kind of made fun of our financial position as kids, my parents' financial position. And so to find him after I was rich to broke, and then to have him see me in that space or headspace was even worse. And he found me 2 nights in a row in 2 different locations with a little bit humbling. And so when I got back in, I said, hey, you know what? I'm too embarrassed. I'm going to just get in my car and I'm going to go live in my car. And what I did is I delivered RVs for RV manufacturers around the country. And the irony there is even though you're delivering an RV, you can't stay in one because there's somebody else's brand new RV, right? So you have to sleep in the back seat of your, I had a 1995 extra cab dually pickup truck or something. And it was awesome. And 6 months of inventory. And that's what I did. The first 6 months was just, what did I do wrong? And then it was such a huge list of trusting the wrong people. I made an attempt of exiting and I didn't know how. And I thought exit by franchise. I didn't understand franchise law. I'm just a kid. I thought, hey, I'm going to create this franchise deal out of my shed company that we were supplying all the Home Depot storage sheds. And we went through these different steps of how do I exit, and trusted the wrong one. They liquidated all the assets that Home Depot owed me several $1 million. And then I got stuck with a bill that I didn't know how to handle the negative calls. So I just avoided, right? You stick your head in the sand and then you're like, oh no, I don't know how to tell Stu I owe him some money and I can't pay him on Friday. So I just will ignore, and then run away. So even though there was a cascade of events that created the bankruptcy at that point was, when you look back, it's 100% my fault. Regardless, if there's people to blame, sure, but it's 100% on you. I made the choices. I chose who to trust. I chose how to spend it. I chose how to manage it. I didn't have the education. I didn't understand business. I didn't ask the right questions. I was too off-putting and pompous to ask smart people because I felt like I made more money than a lot of people at that age, that I didn't have anybody that could give me advice because I was much lost.
I wanted to take a second and thank you for being willing to come on the show. You're a busy man. You have a lot of things going on, but people, Jeremy, so many people need your story. I get goosebumps because there are founders out there that are on the brink of giving up, not just on their business, but on life. And what they can take away from this is your mentality of, no, I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to come back better because I've been through this. And you've proven that can happen. $1 million that young, now how many millions since, right? I mean,
hundreds. And that's what's crazy, right? So I can tell you this. I had a friend of mine, and I won't use his name. He owned a huge bank, and he declined me early. I've been bankrupt twice too. So I bankrupted in 2010. I bankrupted in 1999 or 2000. I can't remember the year. It was a pretty screwed up year for me. So people are like, what day? I'm like, shit, I don't know, man. I have no idea. Like I was in such a bad headspace. I didn't want to exist. So to remember days, when I hear people tell their story on October 3rd, 1998, I'm like, good Lord, you remember that kind of stuff? I can't remember. But he called me up. He declined us at Murphy-Dorf for a credit line. I just was looking for $100,000 or something to buy some stuff for my factory. We just bought our first building, and it was a real big stretch, 100,000 square feet, and it was a few $1 million. And I was just trying to put the machines in and looking for a bank that would work with me. And he said, I'm sorry, I don't approve anybody that's been through bankruptcy. And I'm like, I completely understand, and I can appreciate that a lot. Why you wouldn't want to take that risk and really calculate it. And I know how risk works, and I've lost because I took risks incorrectly, and I can appreciate it. Well, a couple of years go by, and I get this random, like 11 p.m. at night, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, why is this dude calling me? It's the CEO of this bank. And I'm like, hello? And this dude's in sobbing tears. And he's like, Jeremy, I got to tell you this. I just got raided by the FBI. We made an investment into this group, and then this attorney, whatever the background story was, and they've seized all my assets, and I have nothing, and I'm losing my cars and my house. And he goes, I'm just sitting here, and all I can think of is killing myself. So I'm sitting in my car, and I have this gun in my mouth, and you told me your story about going bankrupt, and I just wondered how you got through it. And I'm like, pretty easy, right? I got stopped. And then I got in the car going back to me. When I got in the car, and I'm not Mr. Religion. I mean, I was born and raised in an LDS household, didn't go to church after about 16. And it's not that I don't believe, I just don't go to church. But long story short, I got in the car. Here I am, completely humiliated. My buddy, his girlfriend, sitting there 2 nights in a row, right? And I'm like, God, this is so stupid. And on the radio was Kid Rock's Only God Knows Why. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm not even a Kid Rock listener at the time. And for whatever reason, that hit me, and it kicked me right out of depression. It was the weirdest thing. I threw all the antidepressants out. I went back in it. And then that's when I started my journey on the road, by the way. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do something hard. And I wanted to think of the hardest thing I could do. So I thought, living in my car from where I've been would be like the hardest thing ever. And I'm going to put myself through it for a year because I didn't like the fact I'd ignored phone calls and I ignored everybody that was important to me. So I'm like, hey, what's hard? Like taking a bad phone call. Well, this would be hard. So I'm going to make myself do it. And I set a goal to do it for a year. I did that. But back to this gentleman, I said, hey, look, dude, it was easy once I got the mindset of it being easy. I said, look, let him take your stupid car. Let him have your stupid house. They're all replaceable. It is all just money. It does not matter. I said, they can come and get all the ingredients to your famous cookie. They can have them all. The good news is all those recipes or ingredients, can be bought at your local store. Everything's available at the ready, and you don't even need to have money if you have the right friends. So at the end of the day, the only thing that the FBI, the banks, the lenders want is your recipe. What is your secret recipe? And that's the only thing you get to keep. So the irony here is that you have the recipe. They want the recipe. They can only have the ingredients. The ingredients are pretty much passive. You can get them anywhere at any time through the right networks, through the right, patients. And I think that's what people forget, is to have patience to get back. I mean, people worry about their credit score. They worry about all the wrong things, right? Yeah, honestly, it feels like it's all the right things when you're going through it, because that's what the world wants you to believe that matters, is your Ferrari or your house or your boat or your money or your balance in your bank or your stock value, like all the bull crap stuff that's made in China and paper fake money that's printed. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is your recipe. And you've proven it yourself. You've done 2 businesses that have done great exits. You have the recipe. It doesn't matter what you can go into products, you can go into whatever. You understand the business basics. And I think, fortunately, at an early age, I built my company really, really fast, from 18, 19, and 20. And that came from a really hard driven mother that just didn't give up. And then a dad at that point that didn't ever try. So I knew who I didn't want to be like. He was really successful, and then he lost and he folded. I'm like, well, I'll never fold now, which is awkward to say when I go through bankruptcy. That's what most people perceive as folding. I just needed the reprieve from that, so I didn't shoot myself. Right, that was really what that game was. Is then I didn't have to sit there and focus on the past and sit and live in my rearview mirror of all the things I did wrong. I wanted a period where I could do it. So the irony with the gentleman that called is he called back again. It was probably a month later, and said, hey, I'm back here in this space. How long did it take you to make your first million back? And I'm like, dude, you've made it way bigger than I've ever made it, especially at that time. You're going to be a year to be a millionaire again. If you just ignore all the noise and you focus back on the recipe you knew and forget about all the stuff, and you do your bankruptcy or whatever it is that it's going to take. He's like, well, it takes bankruptcy. I said, do it. Okay, great. That's why the feds put this thing together. It's not that anybody wants to go through it. It's not like it's a trophy badge, but it's there so that great minds that have the unique ability to go put themselves through hell, which is entrepreneurship, that have brilliant ideas that need to get them to market. The government wants you to do it. That's why they give you these releases, because they know people fail, and they want those minds to keep trying without this forever punishment. And that's what that whole system came in. And I think, there's a certain value that people forget. We all have an intrinsic value, whether it be in the working in the factory, whether you're sitting at the front end of the business, which sometimes gets the wrong reward. Like, look what you've created. Well, great. I created the concept. My teams have helped me create something amazing, but we have this value that people don't understand. And every little bit of input matters. And I think when we, back to our guy, I told him another time, I said, dude, just don't forget you have the recipe. 1 year later, he'd made over $1 million. He is doing wonderful. I love seeing him on social. He's happy. He's gained weight. He doesn't look stressed at all. He's always posting eating delicious desserts and great meals and going on great vacations. I'm like, there we are. And the irony there is I haven't talked to him since, which is great. I mean, honestly, if I'm just a call for don't shoot yourself, give me your call. I'll take it. Like there's a lot of things that feel really, really heavy when we're going through it. And then in hindsight, when you go back, you're so thankful for those problems. And the next, like in my car, those next 6 months, I just inventoried all the mistakes and what I'm going to do different, where I need to turn left, right, how I need to respond to people. And I can say this, when to be mean, like not to be so accepting of like stuff that you feel shorted on. I am a very stern negotiator. I'm not going to be shorted. I'm not going to let you think I'm retarded. I mean, don't take that wrong, but I'm not going to let you think I'm naive to the point where you think you can take advantage of me. Even when I was just a full-time firefighter at the city and I was starting this business and they're like, hey, we need a personal guarantee. I'm like, I don't do personal guarantees ever. We don't do PGs ever. Never, ever. Like, I will not sign them. Well, we won't open an account. I'm like, great. Then I'll give all my business to the other company that'll take a risk. But the bottom line is you want to sell, material to Home Depot. It has to come through me. I cut it into the shape of a door. It goes to Home Depot, and I can't carry Home Depot. So let's be real. I'm not going to be able to cash flow Depot. And if you want to sell the Depot, you're going to take the risk. I promise you, when I get paid, you'll get paid, but not 1 second earlier. Not 1 second. Don't expect me to cash flow you if you don't have the business that can handle the big box. That's not on me. That's on you. So, I mean, there's just a lot of lessons that come through failure. And I think young entrepreneurs, they have these beautiful dreams because they put together an Excel spreadsheet that made them a multi-billionaire in a couple of weeks. And there is goals and pathways to that, but it's never a couple of weeks. It's never as easy as you think. It's never as short as you think. And you're going to have a lot more bad phone calls, good phone calls. But the good phone calls need to be bigger than the bad phone calls. Not quantified like in volume, but they just need to be bigger. And I think you just have to prepare yourself on how are you going to manage the negatives. So, I wrote a couple books. One was called The 100 Questions to Ask Yourself Before Going into Business. And the other one is The 100 Questions to Ask a Partner. It's called Founder Fallout, before you split the equity. So it's basis of like preparing yourself of what you're about to encounter. And are you being honest with yourself on what it really takes to be an entrepreneur? It looks really good when you see them drive by in their silly cars, their fancy big houses that doesn't make them money, whatever. It's fine. It looks lucrative. And they got their fancy bag. That looks lucrative. But at the end of the day, the brutal punishment that it takes to get there, and some people have a faster, success curve than others, but it's still no less brutal. They just can do longer days, right? So I don't know. It's just a long, learning curve.
You said that you end up being grateful for those hard times. Jocko Willink, he wrote the book Extreme Ownership, and he talks about how in the military, when anything bad happened, their reply, or what they always thought to themselves or said, was good. Like,
good. Yeah.
This is going to be hard. This is going to be dangerous. Good. Like,
good.
Because it's for the good of me. And you finding a way to fast money was good for you, because it helped you realize I can do this. Like, it gave you a vision of what's possible. If you can do that when you're 20, wait till you're 30, 40, like that mentality hit. And then bam, like God humbles you and takes you through a really hard time, because you needed to go through that to have the kind of appreciation for the process, for the hard that can come, and to be able to see that you can bounce back, so that in 2010, when you hit bankruptcy, you are ready to say, hey, I'll bounce back.
No depression there, by the way. I didn't feel an ounce bad about that one. That's, the bankruptcies of the banks that went down. I had a bunch of money with lenders that owed me money, right? You're doing subdivisions, you're doing big projects. They had loans from banks that went down. Right. So I didn't drive any of that. I felt no remorse, no guilt. Did I owe people? Yep. I owed Parsons, Wheeler Cat. I felt zero bad. I had no bad feelings in that world. Like, I didn't drive this. This wasn't bad decisions on my part. I mean, like when you start a project, show me your lender, because that's something we asked. Oh yeah, it's Centennial Bank. It's whatever. These different banks that are Barnes Bank, right? And they all went down and they got shut down. So when they owe us tons of millions and then they go shut down, it's like, look, I put my faith in that bank doing good loans, and I can't go any deeper. I don't get to audit the bank to see how good their loan is. That's not real. No one does that. So I can literally say there wasn't one day when it was time to, when I owed millions and they were still trying to collect on me. First and foremost, the banks got bailed out. They didn't survive, but all these people got bailed. We didn't get anything. They still expected us to pay for their subdivisions, and the FDIC takes and auctions out the properties that we never got any of the money on. So I can say this, no remorse. So if any of you guys feel bad for that, I don't care. If I owed you money, I don't care. Like, that is something I do not feel bad about at all. I didn't drive that boat. So
there were too many things out of your control, and you knew that you were giving 100% of who you were, and your team was giving 100% of who they were, to do the best they could. And things, so many things, variables outside your control caused it. And so you leave with a clean heart, right? Like,
I did make mistakes, right? I'm not saying I'm guiltless. There was some mistakes. Like, I shouldn't have gotten into Traco. I should have gone and sold, like little mistakes like that. But it wasn't mismanagement of cash and partying and doing stupid stuff like that, like I'd done in the past. It was nothing like that. It was truly, I bailed out and I paid off a lot of the debt I wished I wouldn't have, to be honest with you. Just because I felt like I owed it to them, because whatever. At the end of the day, it wasn't my project. It wasn't my bank. I don't feel bad. Like, all I was doing was installing your product on this guy's property that bank lent him money on. It's not me. So sorry. But, there's this, like I said, there's this part of resilience you end up building. You have this piece that, did I make mistakes in the past? 100%. Big mistakes, stupid mistakes. Have I made bad decisions that cost people money? Yes. Was that part of it? No. Like, maybe some decisions, like I said, I could have done some better, but in hindsight, we can beat ourselves up. Like my wife spends a lot of time in the rearview mirror. Oh, I wish I would have done that. I could have done that. Oh man, my mother, she's a rearview mirror liver. I'm like, man, your rearview mirror is so much bigger. You can't even bigger than your windshield. You can't even see where you're going. All you do is keep bonking your head on your past. Like, and I probably have gone too far the other way. I think my rearview mirror is the size of a dime, and I don't even have it in my windshield. Like it's like, oh, yep, that happened. But what I do really well is keep that inventory of like, oh, won't do that again. And so when somebody comes up and says, hey, Jeremy, are you want to do this? I'm like, nope. And they're like, oh, let me tell you the story. Don't need to hear it. Like it may be different, but if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, I'm probably not going to do that. Right. So it's not to be stern to them. The no to you isn't from your bad sales representation. It's because of something that I've experienced in the past that I don't need to stick my nose in there anymore. And I just been like, look, it could be a win. It could be fast money. Like if it's, get rich quick, there's no such thing. If it's, I don't believe in that stuff, like what everybody thinks. I just don't buy into that.
Okay. Taking a quick break from the episode. Sorry to interrupt, but I have to take a second and thank the great team at Pod Allies that helps me produce this podcast. Startups with Stu is not an easy undertaking. It takes a lot of work and team power to get this thing done. So the team I use for my podcast, podallies.com, go check them out. If you are considering a podcast, if you've thought you have a dream for a show and you want to go make it happen, go to podallies.com and book a strategy call today. I promise you won't regret it. Speaking of the show or shows, let's get back to Startups with Stu in this episode. Forgive my interruption, but if you're interested, go check out podallies.com.
Let's shift gears and talk Murphy Door.
Let's do it.
You mentioned earlier you have a 1,700 square foot home, and I find myself going, yeah, and there's 17,000 feet below some Murphy Door.
Not yet, but potentially we could do something like that. But no, I don't have anything fancy. I've got a lot of Murphy doors in there because that was about our only studio at some point, right? HGTV came up and did a little thing up at my house years and years ago. And we had no Murphy doors at the time, so I ended up having to change rooms and paint different walls and change doors around, which, my wife had to be patient with because her house had got all destroyed to make it look like different stages. But so I have a bunch in my house. The initial Murphy door came from like our theater room door. I had when I say theater room, you guys, it's a 4-seated, like 8x8 room, probably not much bigger than this room, that has a theater screen. And I needed to make a cool entry because my kids were not going into a theater room like all their friends' houses in Mountain Green and Morgan's theater rooms. Mine was just a little theater room. But I wanted the doorway because, I think of Murphy Door. Yeah, we're not just a door. We're the entrance into what is it? Like, what is behind your Murphy Door? It's truly taking you into that next realm of whatever reality you're trying to create, whether it be your man cave, whether it be your speakeasy, whether it be your she shed, whether it be your pantry. Like, it's just a passage. And for me, it's the feeling of what am I going into, that excitement level. It's the builder that helps you go into that space that's so uniquely yours, your bat cave and your Iron Man room. It's truly whatever it is that's so uniquely you. So what we've tried to do is create a doorway that gives you the passageway into that, right? So we want something that gives you experience before you enter and give you that sense of value to that. And then the excitement way, like when you go and you're waiting for an amusement park ride, what does this thing do for me emotionally? And then what is the next stage? We don't want to take away everything that room is. We just want to be the grand entrance into whatever it is you're trying to give, even if it's as simple as a furnace or a pantry or something like that. It's what is it that we can bring a sense of pride in as you go through and kind of anticipation for what am I going into.
Yes, that's a common theme, what you just described, that I think passionate founders can agree on, is that you're not just creating doors. This is so much more, so much bigger than that. You understand that, you have a vision for that. You're good at giving that to your team, and you're good at giving it to customers. Just being on the website here and watching the different, creating a vision for someone of what they could do with their living space with the product like this. That is key to the success for a lot of founders that I've had on the show. I love seeing it. So this is awesome. And like you mentioned, the recipe, the ingredients. Like I can go to my custom home builder and say, can you build me one of these? And he's going to tell me yes, right? But you're going to say, no, but it's not going to be like ours, right? And then
So there's a reason why. I'll tell you what. So like, I'll give you the background. So I started this as a firefighter, and I came up with the concept in 2012. We incorporated Murphy Door in the end of 2012, December 23rd, 2012. When I say the end, at the very end. And 2013 really started making sales. We did, I don't know, 30,000 in revenue that year. And the idea behind this product was just the hinge. So I created the hardware because I'm like, look, a regular hinge set doesn't work. You can't mount them on the side of the door. You load that door up with heavy weight, it just peels the side of the bookcase off. When loaded heavily, and it's hard to hold straight and they warp. So we came up with this pivoted hinge system, and they've had those pivoted hinges, since the Egyptian times. However, a lot of the new nice hardware required mortising and a bunch of tools that I didn't have. So in my brilliant sense, I thought, well, let me create a hardware set and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to create a hardware that doesn't require any mortising and make it simple, that can carry a ton of weight. And I designed it basically off a backhoe bucket is where it comes out of. You can change the angle of attack. You can do in swing, out swing, left, right hinge. They're ball bearing, quick release pin. Like the basic idea of that hardware comes from that concept. But, ultimately, this is an example of a business that we started with no money. Like I got $24,000. I know I say I had no money. My stake president in Morgan gave me $24,000 out the gate. He said, hey, look, you don't belong doing what you're doing. If I gave you a little money, what would you create? And I was working on this door concept from something else I'd seen. I was doing door to door as a side job. And a guy was making these hidden doorways. And I'm like, oh, that would be really cool for my house. And it never really had mainstream. But one thing that I had from my past when I was 18 and I was passionate about was mainstream. Like I had Home Depot at 18, 19 years old. We were selling to the big boxes. And I'm like, what can I create that would get back into Home Depot that would get volume, right? And I had connections. I had a lot of the shortcut needs, but I just didn't have the it. And like I mentioned when we were talking before this interview was I like monopolies. I love the idea of not having a competitive marketplace. I don't love going into businesses that have highly competitive markets simply because they dictate price. They dictate expectation from customers. They always have someone to compare you to. And they're like, well, Stu's doing this. I'm like, well, good for Stu, right? So, I mean, what we went into, and I saw that there was no real competition in the realm. Like, well, this could be something I could create the hardware for and launch all over the place, and they'll sell my hardware. Well, what I failed to see was they didn't have even a marketplace for hidden doors. Like, not only did they not have the hardware, there was no market. There was no, like, does it go in kitchen and bath? Does it go in millworks? Where does it even belong? It had no home. So what of hidden doors now is something we've had to create from this very, freight codes to where they sit in stores. How are they labeled? How are they described? What's all the things is something we've had to develop. And what you see worldwide is most of the time it's Murphy Door and we have to shut them down. But it's really hard because you become a Kleenex brand and get a little bit of genericizing.
Like you did become the Kleenex brand. And that is something that I hope we can steal from you in this episode. What does it take? Is it timing? Is that what caused Murphy Door to kind of become the Kleenex of tissue?
Think about it. Yes, it's monopoly, man. When you get out there with the right product and you're singular, you don't have to steal the brand. You look historically, the first into the marketplace isn't necessarily always the winner, but historically they are always the biggest, and it's really, really hard to overtake the first to market. So Unfortunately, people forget how creative they are, right? They need to really start thinking about what is it that they don't like? What is it that you could create unique that you're not competing against other people in, and take the risk. Like I'm 100% heavy risk taker. I think that's why I love fire paramedics so much. It's a risk business and I love that business more than anything. However, I love high risk. I love the gamble because I know with bigger risks come bigger rewards. And when I say bigger rewards, I don't care about the money as much. I've never been really money driven. And I know that sounds weird because I'm caught saying a lot like, okay, well, when we cross the 100 million, when do you hit the billion? That kind of question. But it's just because people relate to that. For me, I use the infrastructure style. So With Murphy Door, I knew going into this dollar potential. Had a billion annual revenue potential. And how do you come up with that? Well, there's 300 million plus, give or take, people in the United States. And then you multiply that out by the world, and what customer can use this? Well, if you go into areas like Japan and Europe, tiny homes, monster homes, this is really adding a lot of unique space to places that, unused doorway space. You can add 20 cubic feet of storage in that doorway wall. And I thought, well, there's an idea for the rich. There's an idea for the poor. There's an idea for big houses. There's an idea for small houses. So then you do the multiple, and it only takes about 600,000 units a year to hit $1 billion. So I'm like, how hard would it be to sell 600,000 units? And it's not as hard to sell 600,000 as you think. It's hard to build 600,000, right? So the key element that you play a little ping pong with is cells, manufacturing, cells, manufacturing. The cells go too much, manufacturing can't keep up. You have to build the manufacturing facilities up around it. Then the cells speed up, or the cells slow down. They need to catch up to the increased manufacturing capacity. And then you get that. It's just back and forth ping pong. It's juggling those. And that's the harder part, right? So we're in the middle of, right now, I'm in Kentucky, and we're putting in another, $5 million investment into automation here as we speak. So that's just the game we play every day. And so as we grow the scale of manufacturing, we can increase the sales opportunity, right?
Yeah, that is a note I just took. It's not as hard to sell 600,000 as you think, but it is pretty hard to build 600,000 of anything that you're going to sell. I like that.
We forget about that. Well, I think when we get excited as entrepreneurs, and, this is going to take us a little off track, but telling you how I built Murphy Door with no money is I built everything here using domestic manufacturing, domestic products. I didn't entertain any foreign imported products. Why? It's because I had no money. So that means I had to sell something, and then I had to build something. I had to use your money to build the thing that you wanted. And I couldn't do that by buying container loads from China, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, or whatever. I had to do one-piece flow manufacturing. So everything since the inception of Murphy Door has been built around one-piece flow manufacturing. First, we horizontally integrated our manufacturers using subcontractors, and then we vertically integrated as we needed it. Then we'd go back out and use horizontally integrated contractors, and as we, it increased capacity, and then we brought in vertically, which means into our own manufacturing realm, and we built that. And we just constantly do a horizontal, vertical, integrated sub, and then when we have enough work, we vertically integrate it. I think too many times entrepreneurs get too excited about having all the manufacturing space in their self, or they get too excited about cheap products. And then what happens, COVID hits, they can't get their stuff in. You get tariffs that hit. You have all these things that are out of your control. Well, you have a great relationship with local vendors. You have a great manufacturing base. You have domestically made products near your consumer base. Your lead times to products are quicker. The customization, like we talked about with Portland Leathers, is that what you said it was called?
Yeah.
That's really where that goes. It's that if you're able to do one-piece flow manufacturing really, really well, and you do on-demand ordering, they can customize it however they want. These silly companies that are importing all their stuff get limited by SKU numbers because they have to buy so much quantity of the same one that they get, like, you can choose between this color or this color in that series or style or whatever you want to call it. Well, with us, it's whatever you want. Like, we can't show everything on our website. That's absurd. Like, we literally can build everything. What do you want? People are like, I can't find what I'm looking for. I'm like, well, of course not. I mean, the idea here is that you build what you want. We'll just create it. We'll engineer it. We have, engineering. We have, design engineers, manufacturing engineers, structural engineers, all on our payroll that live and work with us full time in our buildings. So you come up with something crazy, it goes through an engineering process. You go through design. This is the pencil sketch. Is that kind of what you want? Here's the CAD version. Okay, that is what you want. All right, then let's send it over to structural engineering and mechanical engineering and make sure everything functions and it gives you a lifetime use. And answer your long ago question of, you can ask your contractor to build it. Well, the first 1,000 customers of mine, those 4 buggers, man, those doors sucked. They sucked. They just failed. These doors are, you look at these doors like you're looking at the website, they look like just a cabinet, and they are. However, they're built entirely different than a cabinet. They are not the same structure. They're structurally completely different. And what we use for hardware and what we use for fasteners, you can't just buy off the shelf. These are products that we've had made for our product to keep from twisting, warping, sagging, carry 350 pounds on the door, hardware that carries 1,100 pounds, like they can be slammed, that can be kicked, that can last a lifetime. When you're spending a lot of money, we need to make these things last forever. So what is it that it takes? And I mean, we manufacture all of it. We have steel manufacturing, we have wood manufacturing, we have all this stuff in-house, which is new, by the way. We're just starting our own machine shop. So all this is ours. But I can appreciate all the cabinet guys that want to build the indoors. But I'll tell you what, most people call it warranty in a box. That's just hard. They fail, they sag, they twist, they warp, and it's just hard. So I wanted to talk more on the Murphy door side. We built this Murphy door site. The first one was hideous. It was terrible. And there's a guy, Paul Alstrom. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
He wrote a book called Nail It, Then Scale It.
Yeah.
And I'm the complete opposite believer. So him and I have had really good, fun conversations, and I love the man. Paul Alstrom is an amazing human. But I'm on the opposite side of his vision. I do not believe in nailing something before you scale something. I believe that you do it at as good as you possibly can, call it 80%, right? And let's say, hey, does this pass? Is it going to last? But we're going to learn some stuff. Now, do you want to explode it, to scale it before you nail it? Not necessarily, but you need to get it out there, and you need some feedback, because you might be going completely down the wrong path. And you do need to get it out and see if there's a little tweaks you need to make before you try to scale. So I'm good enough with 80% and then saying, hey, what's the feedback look like? And how is it that we need to change it? But being open to criticism is a huge thing. And I think that's one thing that alpha entrepreneurs don't love. Like, I don't like to hear negative about my stuff. I don't like negative customer reviews. And I think on the other side, I don't like negative customer reviews either at all. They don't feel good. But if you look at it like they don't feel good, so then what is it that we need to do? We need to take it and own it. And then we need to act. And then we need to make it so we never feel like that again. But if you don't get that negative review, if you don't get that negative feedback loop, then you're going to not be able to make improvements to make a better product and a better experience for that client. So I shrug when I say I'm always open to negative reviews, that I do not love them. However, that if you are a disciplined owner that can appreciate people's opinions, some people are out of line. Like, hey, these guys don't care about your product. They delivered their door on a broken pallet. I'm like, dude, we didn't deliver you a door. When it left my office, it wasn't a broken pallet. It went through 3 dock changes. I can assure you it wasn't on us. And I'm sorry that your door sucks, because it's fine on the door, but your pallet's broken. I'm really sorry. Yeah. But there's unrealistic expectations. I just think too many people think you need a bunch of money to start something. Here you sit on Murphy Door. We'll do probably $56 million this year at Murphy Door. In made in America products. I was a full-time fire guy till 2016, and we'll do 75 next year and 109 in 27. That is our current pathway, which, by the way, we're exceeding that path currently. We're almost at 100% year-over-year revenue right now. So we're doing better than we expected. So I think don't wait till the time is right. It's never right. Right. It's just have a plan and don't quit your first day job. Don't quit your day job. I'm a firm believer. Like, I didn't leave fire until Murphy Door was trending. I need to make sure this is clear. Trending to 5 million. I hadn't hit 5 million in revenue. I waited till we did $400,000 a month for 6 consecutive months at least. And then I left full-time fire. And people think that's crazy. Like, I understand, like, Damon John's a great friend of mine, from Shark Tank, and they want your full attention. And they say, hey, I get the Shark Tank stage, because if you're investing in a company, you do want their attention 100%. I get it. However, as an owner, like, you don't want to steal milk from the baby's bottle. Like, when it gets its first $1,000, you can't take 500 to live on when your margins are 30%. You don't have enough to even pay the bills forward. So you truly need to keep your first source of income for as long as you can possibly go. The longer, the better. The bigger your company can get using all the money that it makes without paying you, because you have another job, the better it is for your business. Just be very careful to stay away from the temptations of seeing your first bigger checks coming in and the larger balances in your checkbook. You're like, oh man, I got 100 grand. I could probably take 10 grand and nobody'd know. You're right. Nobody would know except for your baby's bottle drops 10% and they grow 10% slower. And honestly, people think it's only 10%. But if you take that over time, the magnitude of impact is much greater than that, especially on the early years onset, like that 1, 2, 3 year period. Like you look 10 years in the future, what would that have done to spike that growth up a little bit? It's significantly greater. And it's unfortunate that people find this temptation to take payroll early, and take, I honestly think taking investments early is a sad deal. A lot of people celebrate, look, they got $100 million round or a $200 million round. Good for them. And I'm looking, man, the obligations that it takes to make sure that you hit these and the clawback laws and all the rules that come into these contracts that you no longer drive. And I'm not saying that's your case too. However, contracts are all different. So I just want everybody to know that it all depends on the exit you choose. But let's say you're not exiting and you're just looking for your investment round or your angel round, and you've sat here and you put in time and money, and then your business isn't worth anything yet, right? We're still at like 100 grand and you put 300 grand in, but they're going to base it off something else. And they're like, I'll give you 50 grand for 50%. And you're like, well, wait a second. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem fair. Well, let's be honest with you. It's fair to them, right? To you, it's not fair. So that's where patience matters, right? So I mean, there's just, I look at it completely different now that I'm 30 years into this self-employed world kind of. And everybody asks those kind of advice tips. And most of the time they don't like the answer, right? Because it's not in line with what they were hoping for.
It's not usually because what you're describing is the hard way. It's the long way. And everyone wants the get rich quicker approach. And with
well, you get
Founder
the sales
Live,
pitch, right? From the equity groups. They're like, listen, what would 50 million do for your business today? Well, we could do it. Like owning 50% is way better than owning 100% of nothing. Like they have their pitch. And what people fail to see is they're pitching to you too. Just as you're being pitched at, or you're pitching them, they're pitching you why you should accept less. And it's really, I mean, at the end of the day, could we be bigger, stronger? Yes. But here's the question. Would I have been able to do exactly what I had envisioned and what I felt like I wanted to create? Like I said before we recorded, I had a different vision for Murphy Door. Murphy Door is just a laboratory for my total objective for Murphy Lifestyle Products, which is basically anything that you can have in a house, from your tables, your armoires, your beds, doors, whatever, that's uniquely yours. The width, height, depth, wood type handles, whatever finishes you want. Like if you could take your phone out, measure your room, and have your armoire fit exactly your space, and your nightstands fit on the side of the bed, instead of only being able to buy one of them, you could fit both because they're slightly smaller. I mean, like we need to empower the client to be able to work directly with the consumer or the manufacturer to get exactly what they need in the color they choose and the wood type they like with the handles they love, and make sure they get that. And we have every opportunity to do that if you're manufacturing local, if you're keeping it domestic, if you're having it keep, the freight periods close, and if you're working locally, you can highly customize. Ask Portland Leathers, right? They're doing it right here. They can highly customize everything that they want. We can do the same. And I think most manufacturers get stuck in, I need to, horizontally integrate it overseas because I need to make it affordable. Well, working so hard on affordable, work on something that brings value to people and make something that's going to be something you're proud of and that people can be proud of too. Like they don't buy for price. And I think that's the Kool-Aid people drink. Oh, they buy it for price. Well, if you're selling for price, it's a race to the bottom. They buy for value. How do they feel? What makes them proud? That's how that Portland guy did 200 million. It makes 100% sense to me. And I'm excited to listen to that episode for sure.
Yeah, folks, if you haven't yet heard the episode that I did with Curtis Matsko, that's what Jeremy's referring to. It is my favorite episode. I feel like you gain the most from listening to his episode of my 37. I've produced probably 44 by the time Jeremy's goes live here. Jeremy, it has been such a pleasure to have you and your story on the show. If folks, I don't think that you could go to 2 years of college and gain the type of entrepreneurial knowledge that you get from listening to these episodes. Some great folks like Jeremy who come on the show. As Startups with Stu, we talk about what it takes to take your startup to the moon. Murphy Door has gone to the moon and is headed to Mars. These guys are doing big time things. Go check out Murphy Door. Go read Jeremy's books. I'm excited to go shop those up. I can find them on Amazon, I'm guessing.
Not yet. They're all just sitting in my computer. I'm waiting for an editor. I got to find one. So if anybody has one, look me up. It's at Barker482 on Instagram or Jeremy G. Barker on LinkedIn. Send me some editors. I've got them sitting here. I'm really good at getting it out. I'm really bad at doing the discipline part of finding it. It's like you have dreams and motivation and discipline. Like I'm really disciplined at business. I'm poorly disciplined at trying to get my books to an editor. So I've got the three. One's called Ashes to Empire, and the other one's the Founder Fallout and the 100 Questions to Ask Yourself before going into business. Now, the fun part is the real estate side. For me, I have a real estate portfolio that's much bigger than Murphy Door now, that has all been built inside Murphy Door's concept. But we've been able to figure out how to build, massive real estate without much. So that's been an awesome payday. I'll tell you that.
Oh, that's so cool, man. I'm excited to learn more from you, Jeremy, and glad to be connected. Thank you for taking time for us today. Folks, when you
Absolutely.
go to murphydoor.com, go and click on the Get $100 by talking to a real customer. This is a freaking genius form of showing off your product. So if you're a founder that's looking for a way to show off your product, Murphy Door has figured it out. I think they're using, Jeremy, you mentioned Pure Brand is the
purebrand.io. Yep. And it's a Shopify ready app right now that you can download. This empowers a true live review. This, let me really quick on this before we exit. 1-star reviews to 5-star reviews. Let's be honest, like a 1-star review, that's like if someone stole your money. Or like if it can't get worse, it should be 1-star only if you stole their money. And 5-star review, I think that's kind of absurd too. It's like, I bought $1,000 thing. I got $1,000 thing, 3-star, right? It's exactly what I expected for $1,000. 4-star, if it was a little bit better than I expected, man, that thing's worth $1,500. I got $1,000 thing. I paid $1,000 for $1,500 in my heart. But 5-star, like for heaven's sakes, would you mow my lawn and make my dinner? I don't understand it. So we came up with this way. First off, I think Yelp, let me be honest, Yelp is the very worst platform on the planet. It's like exactly what the word says. Yelp, it's like a kick dog. What they do is they maximize the negative 1-star review and they suppress the 5-star reviews. Like you can go into our sign-in and we have hundreds and hundreds of 5 stars that they will not release because they think they're edited or that they were produced. I'm like, those are actual customers. Here's our actual receipts. They don't care. So, I mean, what I wanted to create is a review platform like this that gives two-way conversation where your past customers can talk to future customers. And that past customer may say, hey, that experience was kind of crappy. They dropped the door off and it was sitting on the front driveway for days and they didn't carry it in. Well, how was the door? Well, the door's great. I had this. There was a couple of problems on install, but their customer service was awesome and they fixed it, or there was a little bit of damage that they fixed. Like, we need to hear the full transparency. It can't just be a rant 1-star or a rant 5-star. Like, we don't get better as business. So what we decided is, like, how could I get this, from 0 showrooms to now we could have the opportunity to have 200,000 showrooms, 200,000 sales reps that only get paid when they sell. And those sales reps currently are your past customers that, by the way, are the most powerful way to sell your product, is having somebody that's actually a user talk about you in positive light with their experience as a business. Now, then they have these two-way conversations where the past customer, well, if they start ranting in a negative, most customers that are interested will ask for positives, which is something we found. But it all matters. And so what we do with Pure Brand is we'll then transcribe that all, like we was telling you, and then send you the pros and cons of the conversation, and then an action plan to fix your business so that way your clients can have the best experience possible. And I think when you empower your customer to be your voice and to be your rep and to be your customer service, you can scale forever. Like, imagine going from no showroom to as many showrooms as you possibly have customers if they all opt in. Right? You can really grow your business with very little money with the most powerful form of sales, which is past clients.
This is genius. I think it's going to be really fun to see what happens with Pure Brand IO, because I can envision a day when that's how everything works. People are like, yeah, I'm talking to 2 customers before I buy this thing. And it's not like reviews where it's behind a keyboard and there's keyboard courage. This is live video calling with someone who's showing me their product in their house. That's genius, man.
It's so fun to watch too, man. I should, when we have some time, we'll spend some time offline, but you need to see it when you're sitting here as a business owner and you're watching 2 people talk and you don't know either of them other than one's bought a product from you and the other one's shopping. You're like, oh, don't say that. Oh, he said that. No, you know what I mean? Like it's great, but you're going back and forth and you can hear the excitement. Some of them, you can hear the frustration. And it's like that. If you really care about making sure you're delivering amazingness and this wonderful experience, it's fun to sit there and watch, and you can just go through video after video after video of customers talking to future customers. And I can tell you this, like we were talking earlier with D2C brands, B2B brands, converting into D2C brands. What this does is it lets the company know who their customers are, right? Now they have this transparency rather than having to register for the extended warranty. Now they know who's their customer because they're registering their product, to get the warranty stuff or whatever, their instructions. Now they go in and now they know who their clients are. They know exactly how to get a hold of them. They know what they've bought. They have immediate word. Now, let's say you're talking negative. We send an emergency message to you. Hey, Stu, by the way, we've had multiple occurrences where your widget's breaking right here. You might need to take action. Mm-hmm. Like when we hear a multiple occurrence in the negative, hey, FYI, people can't find this on their website. People can't find this. Make it more apparent. Like we give you these little tidbits of instruction that's things that you'll be blind to if you don't have these type of tools that you're ready. And by the way, we only charge 3% of the upside that we can attribute to our process. So they've scheduled a call through Pure Brand. They made the call, they made the order, and now we charge a 3% of the upside. So it doesn't cost you anything to exist in it, especially for new businesses. Like it's for up to 10 hosts, it's no dollars a month.
Wow. Super cool. This is one of those things where a tool is being used by a brand that's growing and it's working, and you're a founder going, I need to find the tools that are going to help me grow. This could be one.
You want to know the data? Murphy Moore, 10 million visitors a year or so, right, to our website, and 0.24% conversion rate. When they go through the Pure Brand funnel, it's 47% conversion rate. 47 from 0.24, which, with 10 million views, 10 million visits, 0.24 feel a lot. But when they get to the Pure Brand funnel, 47%. It's a magnitude greater. It's not just a little bit. We're talking 200, 2,000%. It's that much bigger. It's that much more powerful when your customers are selling. They're not being sold. They're being educated by customers. Our sales team are selling you. Customers are educating you on positives and negatives with the product. And I think it really will change the way we shop. I believe, especially as a company, it'll change the way we do R&D. It'll change the way we do our customer service. We get feedback really, really quick. And imagine the ability to scale. Now you have multiple, showrooms. You have multiple salesmen that aren't on payroll. They only get paid when they do a meeting. So it's like having an on-call employee like, hey, I'm not available to be at the showroom. Dude, will you go be there real quick? And then for whatever dollar you decide to pay them, you set those metrics yourself. So if you download the Pure Brand app on Shopify, you set up what's the commissions you want to pay, what's the meeting you want to pay, what's the missed meeting you want to pay. All those things are up to you. You download your logo, you download the little video screen here for you, and it's ready to rock and roll. It's really fast and easy to get moving. So cool. Excited for all you entrepreneurs that do this. So
yeah, do it. Go do it. So Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been another great episode, and we look forward to the next one.
Thank you, sir. Have a great one, man.
You too. Let's be in touch.
Hey, founders, entrepreneurs, investors, and other listeners of Startups with Stu. Thank you for listening to this episode today. As I mentioned at the beginning, as I mentioned in the middle, I want to take a second again at the end and say, if you haven't yet and you're considering a podcast, go check out podallies.com. They sure help me a lot with the show. And I'm so grateful for all that they do to help me accomplish Startups with Stu and get it out to the world so we can help more founders and take your startup to the moon. Go check out podallies.com and podup.com if you're interested in podcasting at any level.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.